Phillies in London over the weekend. The high of Saturday, the low of Sunday. We talked about it earlier in the show. And joining us right now to get more into it, Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad, RedOctoberPhilly.com joins us right now here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Bob, welcome back. How you doing today?
What's up, man? Good to talk to you.
Appreciate you jumping on. So I want to ask you about, first of all, your just big picture takeaways from the weekend, because, for a lot of Philly fans, it was the high of Saturday, the low of Sunday emotionally. And I kind of take from it, Bob, it's 162 games. Games like Sunday happen.
Yeah, look, they can never just seem to lose in normal fashion. Like, when was the last time the Phillies went out and lost the game 8-2 and you said, well, that's baseball. You're not going to have it every night. Like, the pitching has been so good, and they've been so good situationally that they are always in a game, and you're not going to win all of them. And it feels like when they lose games lately, it's in this like rip your hair out fashion. And that's certainly what yesterday was. I think it's hard to have big picture takeaways from one loss. When you look up, you see that they lead the National League in runs per game. They're second in baseball. They've allowed the fewest runs per game in the National League, second in baseball. They have the second best run differential. The bullpen has been the best in baseball since May 1st. The starting pitching's awesome. But, yesterday was a dismal loss. That was a terrible loss. And if you consumed that game for 3 hours yesterday and invested yourself in it, you definitely walked away from it going, well, what the hell was that? And I mean, it's just like that is going to happen sometimes.
I said, Bob, coming into the weekend that I felt the Phillies have to go out and add a bullpen pitcher and a right-handed bat before the deadline. I think this weekend amplified that, Bob, because at some point you can't ask Alvarado and Soto and Strom to pitch every single game.
Yeah, I would agree that they probably are in a position where they could stand to add another bullpen arm. As good as the bullpen has been, I do think that there's a couple potential red flags here. And the one that I would certainly circle is Gregory Soto. I think if you look at him last season, his ERA wasn't particularly good, but when you looked at some of the advanced metrics, he actually pitched better than some of the traditional stats would indicate. And he was sort of victimized by a couple blow-up appearances. This season has been the total opposite. He's been worse, and he's been far worse. He's really struggled to get guys out. Opponents are hitting .324 against him. His whip is over 2 right now. For a guy that throws 97 to 99 miles per hour from the left side, like, you would expect better results, and he just really can't get anybody out right now. And it's interesting. Like, if you were managing yesterday's game like it was all in, win or go home, I don't know that you would have gone to Gregory Soto in the 6th inning to record that final out with the heart of the Mets order up. But I will say this, like, Gregory Soto is a guy that should be able to get out of that spot. And while I think that Max Strom might have been the right choice in the moment, you have to see if Gregory Soto is capable of getting that out. And right now, he just absolutely is not.
To what you're saying, Bob, and not to put words in your mouth, Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad, RedOctoberPhilly.com is the newsletter, joining us here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Are you suggesting we need less of Soto and more of somebody else then moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're in a spot where Gregory Soto is probably your 5th or 6th option out of the bullpen as is. But I do think that you're sort of in this evaluation mode where you're 25 games over 500. You have a 9-game lead in the division. And there's this sense of, okay, what do we have here? Let's put these guys into spots and see what they can handle and what they can't. And so while you're trying to win baseball games, and certainly that's always the focus, there is a little bit of a learning process here about, like, what does this team really look like when we're all in down the stretch, when we get to October. So I think at best right now, Gregory Soto kind of needs one of those Sir Anthony Dominguez resets where you say, okay, like, he's got a good arm. We know that he's performed in the past. Right now it's not working out. Like, I don't think that Gregory Soto should be taking down key outs in games if you have things lined up where Matt Strom, he should be fresh. He through Tuesday. You see him over the weekend. Like, it shouldn't. Guys should have been available yesterday. So sometimes you're going to have to go to him in important situations, but I don't think he's a guy when you have all your options in front of you that you want to go to in a key spot right now.
So with that being said, why do you think they went to Soto there? Is that just the Phillies' brain trust in the dugout overthinking the situation? Is it just making a bad decision? Like what leads in your mind a situation like that? Because I feel like the fans out there, Bob, they're saying this is what's wrong with Rob Thompson. Like that's kind of like the reaction to some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of a conservative move, I guess you could say that, by going to him. I really do just think it's like, first of all, I heard some people criticizing Rob Thompson for taking out Taijuan Walker. I mean, look, Taijuan Walker was really good yesterday, and it was a good step forward for him, and credit to Taijuan for battling and coming out and giving his team a chance to win. But, I mean, nothing that Taijuan Walker has done this season really says, yeah, let's go through the heart of the Mets order a third time or go after Nimmo a third time, even if he had success with him earlier in the game. I think what you're thinking to yourself here is, all right, Gregory Soto's a veteran reliever, and he should be able to get out Brandon Nimmo, and he just didn't. And you want to save Strahm for later in the game. That's fine. You want him to take down the eighth or possibly even the ninth, and you let him do that. So, I mean, again, like if you look at yesterday's game, like it was all in, it was pretty frustrating to watch because I in the moment said, why isn't this Strahm? But when you step back, you think about it, you're like, you got to trust your players. You want to see what guys have. And it was a big spot for him. He just didn't get it done.
This team now leaving London, Bob, they got to go to Boston, to Baltimore, a long, many days away from home. Is there any thought or concern that things are going to maybe not be very even with the rest of this road trip, considering how long of a trip they're taking?
Yeah, the mileage is certainly added up. I mean, you start in Philly, and then you go out Memorial Day weekend out to Colorado, to San Francisco, back to the East Coast, across the pond. Now you're back in Baltimore. That's a lot of travel for a baseball team, and it does take a little bit of a toll on guys from a physical standpoint. Now they have the benefit of the 2 days of rest going into the Mets series, and then obviously today was a down day as well. But it can be a little bit difficult to be acclimated. Now, that being said, Boston has been pretty mediocre. They are league average in pretty much every capacity in terms of their offense. They've gotten good pitching this year, but it goes to show you, like we talk about how good the Phillies pitching has been, and they're 25 games over 500. The Red Sox have been fantastic from a pitching perspective, and they're 500. So that kind of lets you know where they're at from an offensive standpoint. They do benefit. The Phillies have 6 games here on this trip. They'll see Zach Wheeler twice. You'll get Nola, Sanchez, and Walker once as well, and then obviously Ranger. You get good pitching. You're going to have 5 starts where you feel like, hey, the guy that's taking the ball in this matchup is going to give us a chance to win. We've got the better guy. But look, Baltimore's really good. I wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies are looking at like a 3-3 week here. But like, here you go. I come on here twice a week, and I very rarely give hot takes. I have one for you. The Phillies aren't competing against the Braves at this point. The Phillies are competing against the Phillies. The Braves are cooked. The Phillies are going to win this division, and I think that they're going to win it going away. So a 3-3 week, I don't think would be a reason to slam the panic button. But I think what the Phillies have to do is protect against that 1-5 week, and the 2-7 run. Like that's what they're going to have to do because they're not going to stay this hot. They're not going to win 109 games. I don't believe that they will do that. They just got to protect against those prolonged stretches where they can't get things going. And so far, they've been great at that.
Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad joining us here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Bob, a couple more before I let you go. We had a person text in earlier today ask about Kyle Schwarber, if we should be concerned that Schwarber has not hit any home runs yet this month. Are you concerned?
A little bit. It's weird. He's been okay. Like he's still drawing a ton of walks. He's still getting on base. But he had 48 singles last season. He's got 42 singles right now. It's just like, and we're not even halfway through the season yet. It's just that he's been such a different player this year. And I wouldn't say that there's a reason to be concerned about him overall. Like he's still a productive player. But, you sort of expect Kyle Schwarber to run into 35, 40 home runs minimum, and he just isn't that guy right now. And I know everyone when the calendar turned to June was like, all right, here we go, like, lock in. And that hasn't really happened, at least from a power perspective. So I'm not like overall concerned about him, but like he has not been the extra base hit guy, the power guy that you expect him to be. I mean, his slugging percentage is way down this season, but he has picked it up in other areas to sort of offset that a little bit. It's worth keeping an eye on, but like, am I overall truly concerned about Kyle Schwarber? No, I guess I still expect him to go on a run, but does he finish with 40-plus home runs? No, probably not at this point.
Bob, before I let you go, I also wanted to touch base with you because on Friday, the Phillies made a very curious trade, we'll call it. I know for people in South Jersey, love the idea of acquiring Buddy Kennedy because he is from Millville High School. But, what exactly are the Phillies' plans moving forward? Because it feels like they're kind of like doing patchwork until March and Turner come back, with the guys like Weston Wilson and David Dahl up here. So what do you think the Phillies are trying to do the rest of this month? Because my working assumption is Turner won't be back for at least a couple more weeks. And Marsh, as you have mentioned before, Bob, he probably won't be back till the All-Star break.
Yeah, it sounds like Brandon Marsh is doing pretty well. And it's like, I think the question with both Marsh and Turner is this. It's like, all right, could these guys play in a game 7 days from now? And the answer might be yes, but it's just, I think it's about the greater context of, all right, we have championship aspirations. We're trying to be healthy. We're trying to be ready to go down the stretch. We want to peak, and it's going to be hard for them to peak as well as they played. So I don't know if peak's the right word, but we want to make sure that we're firing on all cylinders as we get into September and into October. So we want to be really cautious from a health standpoint with these guys. And so that's where I don't know on the timeline. Like, could Trey Turner play in a baseball game this weekend? I think so. Is he going to be back in the next 10 days? Like, I think that remains to be seen. I think there's a couple more hurdles for him to clear. And I think that they want to be conservative with Morris. He might beat the All-Star break timeline that I initially gave, but I just sort of expect them to say, all right, he's doing really well. He's in a good spot, but like, let's be careful here. So I think with like Buddy Kennedy, I think the idea is basically just build some more depth. You need these guys. I mean, look at what David Dahl's done for this team, right? Like, these moves sometimes pay off. Sometimes they don't materialize to anything. Guy may never take a bat here. But I think the idea is, look, you got a solid player that's good from an organizational depth standpoint. If things happen, one or two more things happen, a couple dominoes fall a certain way, maybe he gets a look. But I think overall that specific move is just about building the organizational depth. I guess I'd be surprised if that moved the needle for the Phillies this season.
He's Bob Wankel at Bob_Wankel on the Twitter X platform. RedOctoberPhilly.com. Get the newsletter so you get all the Phillies insights you need each week. And he joined us here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Bob, appreciate you squeezing in some time for us today.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks for working with me there, Josh. I know I gave you a couple headaches today, so.
Well, the good news is I actually have help in the studio from Nick Earnshaw today, so I'm not totally flying solo by myself. So
I'm glad to hear that. I'll try to be a little bit more available here moving forward.
Take care of yourself. All right.
See you.
Bob Wankel joining us here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill, along with Nick Earnshaw, live here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios here on 97.3 ESPN.